Welcome to Ditch Auto Unlocking Manual Photography. My name's Jared, and today we're going to talk about UV protection filters. Now, I have been shooting for a number of years, and I've been very fortunate enough not to break any lenses. However, I have came close a couple of times. Back earlier on in my photography career, I was, for fun shooting, sports and different stuff, and there were a couple of times where I'd hit my camera on something, and luckily for me, I never hit my camera and broke it. However, there was an instance where I was doing a family portrait session a few years ago, and I didn't even know, but I had bumped my camera right on the edge of the lens, and it cracked the protection filter that was on my lens. Now, if it wasn't for that protection filter, who knows what would have actually been the point of impact and what would have happened to my lens. So, before I started messing with protection filters, I was very hesitant because I didn't want to put anything in front of that glass. I feel like, Canon and all the other lens manufacturers, they make their lenses and they probably don't make the lenses with the idea in mind that there's going to be another layer of glass there all the time. Now, there are a lot of other filters out there that provide a lot of functionality, such as ND filters and polarizer filters that you use to restrict the amount of light that's coming through your camera lens. There's a lot of good uses for those, and we'll probably talk about those types of filters in another video. But UV protection filters have really came in handy for me, especially after breaking one of them. Now, you can get these filters for really cheap, and then there are much more expensive versions. I used to buy the cheap ones because I didn't have much of a budget for these protection filters, but I wanted to protect my expensive lens investment from potential damage. And as I've progressed in my career, I've spent more money on these UV protection filters, which is better quality glass, better quality product that you're putting in front of your lens. So just to give you an example, this lens by B&W that I have, or this protective filter that I have here from B&W is very minimal. It basically is just a UV haze protection filter, and basically it doesn't do much of anything other than protect the front of my lens, because if you see here, especially on these bigger lenses, you have a lot of glass surface projecting here, and if you bump your lens on anything, you're potentially damaging that. And I've had lenses where the protective coating on the outside has gotten damaged a little bit, and it's a bummer when that happens to your lens. Like it's a sickening feeling inside. So I put these protective filters on pretty much all of my lenses that will allow for it. And just to give you an example, here are some other examples of these. This is a Tiffin brand UV protector. Basically what it's almost the same thing as getting sunglasses with UV protection. And on top of that, I feel that, as the face of your lens is exposed to sunlight day in and day out, that light is going through the camera, and it's having that UV protection is also kind of protecting the insides of your camera as well. Now, I don't know what type of wear and tear my camera would have without it. All I know is that I haven't damaged a lens because of having a protection filter on there at all times. And I also haven't had any situations where the sensor of my camera has gotten burn spots in it or anything like that, which are situations that I've heard of other people having before. So besides there being UV protection filters, I'll just show you a couple of other ones. This is a graduated filter, which means that half of the filter is darker and it graduates darker, and then the top of it is completely clear. And you can use that for, doing landscapes when you're shooting and you want the sky to be a little bit, it's a bright day, you want the sky to be a little bit darker so that you could pull those blues out in the sky a little bit easier while still having the actual, from horizon down, what you can see exposed slightly differently. So it's a good filter for that. There are also circular polarizer filters, which definitely make the sky pop, but do affect other elements in the photo as well. There are so many different filters out there, and I haven't really gotten into using a whole lot of them other than ND filters, which just restrict the amount of light that comes into your camera so that you can shoot at maybe, if it's a bright day and you really want to go for that short depth of field by widening your aperture to like 2.8, you're probably going to need an ND filter to knock the light down a little bit so that you can achieve that. But this episode was all about protecting your glass, and I've done that with these UV protection filters, and I put them on all of my glass. And like I said, the cheaper ones may affect the quality of your image a little bit because you're putting a cheap piece of glass in front of really nice glass, which is inside of your lens. So I recommend spending a little bit more money on that protective filter for the front of your camera. I'll put a picture up on the screen of the damage that happened to the protection filter that I had on here before. And just to show you some examples, we'll go ahead and throw up now some before and afters with and without the UV, or with and without the UV protection filter so that you can see the difference between the two. So here's a photo of before with the UV filter on it, and then after without it. You really can't tell a difference. There's really no difference. In this photo, I decided to kind of point my camera at the sky so that you can see, the sun is just kind of shining straight into my camera. And so the first photo, of course, with the filter, and the second photo is without it. And then one final photo with the protection filter and then without. So you can see it doesn't really affect the photo much at all. It's almost not noticeable at all. And so I always shoot with this protection filter on there, even when I'm indoors. I just leave it on because it's a good habit for me just to keep it on. And my lens cover snaps right onto it, so it doesn't create any frustrating situations. My lens hood still pops off. The only thing frustrating about these protection filters is that they're obviously the size of your lens. So if you switch to a different lens and it doesn't have the same size, you can't interchange them. If it's a 77 millimeter face, threaded face on the lens, then you have to use a 77 millimeter filter. And same goes for your other filters. I have some lenses that are 72, some lenses that are 82, and then now switching over to Sony, it's a completely different story, so I'm gonna have to buy all new protection filters for those cameras. So just as an added layer of protection against potential damage to your expensive investments, putting a UV protection filter on the front of your lens can definitely save you a lot of heartache. So thanks for checking out this week's episode of the Ditch Auto Podcast. Join in on the conversation by visiting our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/ditchauto. We'll see you next time.